Cheers. For Your Eyes Only, the 12th Bond film, is often seen as kind of one of Moore's better Bonds. And I always thought that until we watched it again last night. I mean, it's fine.
It's not how I remembered it. I did not enjoy revisiting this particular film.
It's so boring.
Main destruct timer under lever right of ATEC housing dueled by ring main circuit through anti-handling charge. The destruct timer set at 1 minute. For some reason the lever wasn't pulled.
It isn't without its minor charms.
Yep.
It's not a disaster.
It's not one of his worst.
It certainly isn't, but rewatching it, I was still let down. I normally dress up for these and put a suit on or something. This is the Bond where even they've decided they can't be bothered to go glamorous in terms of the costumes. In this, I mean, Roger Moore is an old man and he dresses like an old man. We're into the realm of Bond's boring jumpers. So.
He gets cold very easily now.
Yeah.
So a lot of jumpers he wears in this one.
Yes.
It's not glamorous. Ooh,
Oh, Jesus.
Premier Inn. It's horrible.
Brown. Hey, you like a dirumi looking like crap.
Moonraker got so big, let's bring this back to Earth.
Yeah.
Let's make this slightly more serious. Let's reference On Her Majesty's Secret Service heavily. And I think that's one of the reasons why I always thought this was one of the better ones, is that it's slightly more serious. It's not that much more serious.
A slightly unusual mix of tones because it's simultaneously more serious and more and nastier, but also sillier and as frivolous as any of the Moores get. Also, the budget went down. I think this was just after For Heaven's Gate. So United Artists, I think, had run out of money. So they had to do it on the cheap. They had to try and make it sensible again. Put the focus back onto the character, make it more of an espionage thriller. Which is all a very, very good idea. I just think, I felt rewatching it that they'd shrunk it so far down that it actually become a little bit tedious.
The world's opened up a bit now, so we were actually able to travel to one of the glamorous locations in the film. Yeah, we went to Slough, where the opening is filmed, in the church. We took a train there. I had diarrhea on the way, and we kept having to stop in horrible pubs. Where was that? What was that really awful? We went there twice. On the way there and on the way back.
I enjoyed it when the children came in and stole the balls from the pool table.
Children stole balls from the pool table, and then because the bar lady wouldn't give a woman cash back, she was screaming in front of her kids, "You fucking call yourself Irish, you fucking..." She got it, said, "Call yourself Irish, you paddy," which seems like she's, you know, not really felt that sentence through.
You can't keep that in.
Anyway, it was a horrible trip, but the church was nice.
Mr. Bond.
Here we are at the church at the opening of For Your Eyes Only, where Bond's wife is buried. You'll never be able to hear that.
3, 2, 1.
Here we are at St Giles Church in Slough, where Teresa Bond is buried.
But it was filmed in Slough next to Stoke Park, which is where Bond and Goldfinger play golf.
And it's also in Layer Cake.
And Layer Cake, and also Dead of Night. We didn't really get too late because you can't just go in, it's a private club.
Yeah.
But we made a pilgrimage. We thought we'll go to a Bond location, it's not too far away, and I had a thoroughly nice time.
Let's get the fuck out of Slough!
We did the drinking game. The rules will be down below.
It was 111 drinks. It's a very steady drinker.
May I suggest a white Robolo wine from Capolonia, my home place?
Well, if you'll forgive me, I find that a little too scented for my palate. I prefer the Teotaki Aspera.
Really rude.
Yeah.
Really fucking rude.
Yes. If you'll forgive me, I think it tastes of piss.
The plot of For Your Eyes Only is a British ship off the coast of Albania.
An undercover
ship.
intelligence ship.
Yes.
Not just a ship.
It's pretending to be a fishing ship.
Yeah, it's an MI6 ship.
But it's actually got this thing called ATAC on it, ATAC or something.
It's a computer program which controls the fleet of nuclear submarines.
Yeah. And the foolish fishermen on board decide to bring in a mine that blows up the ship sinks, and then basically it's a race sort of between the West and the East.
Yeah.
Who's going to get this thing? So Bond is sent off to try and get the thing. And along the way, he also comes across a woman named Melina, who is out for vengeance because
her parents were employed by MI6 to try and find the location of the wrecked ship, and they were gunned down by a Cuban hitman.
Yeah. That sounds like quite a good plot, kind of. It's very From Russia with Lovey.
Yeah.
Find the thing, and there's Cold War espionage.
Yeah.
It can all just...
Raw opium. An old smuggler's trick. Christados knows them all.
An old smuggler's trick. You hide the illegal stuff in something. Well, Roger Moore's back, really showing his age. I know in the past we've said he's starting to look his age,
Yeah.
but this is possibly the first one where it's becoming a little laughable.
He thinks I'm still a virgin.
Yes, well, you get your clothes on, and I'll buy you an ice cream.
Especially with the women.
The idea that he's this, vigorous, globe-trotting, go-getting, physically intimidating spy.
That women, the moment they see him, their jaws drop to the ground. He looks like his jaw's going to drop to the ground, like in Beetlejuice, when they're crumbling at the end.
He wasn't initially due to return for the role. The producers didn't know whether they could get him, and there was a little bit of debate over who they were going to get. I think at this point they tried to get Dalton, and Dalton wasn't keen. Then eventually, I guess they just added an extra 0 to the check and brought Moore back.
Yep. And he's fine in it. I mean, he's too old. He's a little bit more serious.
Yeah.
And I mean, when people always say it's his dark one. He kicks that car off the cliff, which is one of the great scenes.
Yeah.
You left this with Ferrara, I believe.
The most brutal thing that Roger Moore does, except for, I mean, some of the tricking young women into bed is nasty. The man he kicks off the edge of is
Michael Gothard, I think that's how you pronounce his name, who plays Father Barry, who's basically the rock and roll exorcist from The Devils.
Had no head for heights.
Everything else is rather more doing what Moore does.
Yeah.
More of the same.
Very good.
Conserve your gas supply. Speak only when necessary.
Say that before you
Alongside him is
Carol Bouquet. Is that her name?
Bucket.
Yes.
Bouquet? That's spelled B-U-C-K-E-T.
Oh, bucket!
As Melina, who again was one of these characters I thought, good Bond girl. She's out for vengeance, and she's got a real character and motivation. I didn't care for her this time around.
Well, you said the thing about how it's ridiculous that, women's jaws drop at this old man. I think they do a thing in this one where she's not interested because she's so focused on avenging the death of her parents, and the sort of supposedly interesting thing is this glamorous, beautiful young woman who isn't interested in Bond. She doesn't look particularly interested in anything during the movie. She's got this completely impassive. She'd be great at cards.
Yes.
She's got such a poker face. It barely changes the expression throughout the whole movie.
Killed my parents.
The Havelocks? I'm sorry.
Really, really dull performance.
It is.
And you get absolutely no sense that there's any sort of chemistry between the two leads.
No.
Which is fine because there doesn't appear to be any sort of romance bubbling between them, but the movie does end with this somewhat ludicrous naked moonlight swim,
Yes.
where I think we're to assume that they're gonna have sex in the ocean, or
Well, it shows she still doesn't really find him attractive, that it has to be in pitch black darkness and underwater. And the other Bond girl is a young ice skating late protege, person. And there's a joke, it's sort of the first character who James Bond's like, you're a little young for me. The real joke is that girl is only, in reality, 1 year younger than the main Bond girl. So he may as well be asking, when's your birthday?
One of the porters is a fan. He'll do anything for me. And I'll do anything for you.
The third Bond girl, the one who dies according to Roald Dahl's thing of one has to die, or, his strange formula, was played by Piers
Morgan's mother.
Cassandra Harris, Pierce Brosnan's wife at the time. Her character in it, again, I don't know what it's adding. It's so a woman can die in the film.
Yeah.
The death is done very well. She's hit by a car. It's very brutal. And in fact, the scene on the beach is one of the better scenes in the movie.
Yeah. But that beach sequence puts you in mind of the opening of Her Majesty's Secret Service.
It does, yeah.
When you get this very short and intense scene on a beach.
Julian Glover is the villain,
And
Statos. He's a good actor, very unmemorable in this. I mean, it's a twist as well that he's the villain, because they keep sort of pretending it's going to be Topol who's the main villain.
Yeah.
And then
Which they would repeat with The Last Crusade.
Yes, yeah, the Julian Glover twist.
Yeah. The philosophy of shrinking everything and making it more serious, and you deliberately don't go for the maniacal supervillain that has an enormous villain's base, or a massive space station, and a master race of servants. It's a smuggler who's just out to basically make some money.
Which is good, but I kind of wish there was a little bit more to him. I don't know. And Topol has some charisma as he's, chomping on pistachios through the whole film. Although I find the reveal of him and the twist, it falls very flat. He just goes, it's not me, it's him.
It is Christatos you want, not me.
Possibly we have James Bond's most boring sidekick, Luigi.
I've forgotten Luigi.
Of course you did. He's there.
Briefly,
and there's a bizarre scene where James Bond finds him with his throat slit and then checks his pulse.
Send them to the funeral, will you?
This is the beginning of the John Glenn era.
Yeah, made the step up from editor.
Yep, similar way that Peter Hunt had done on Her Majesty's Secret Service. And he feels like a first-time director with this film. He was was he a safe pair of hands?
He was a cheap pair of hands.
Yes, a cheap pair. You also get the feeling that the producers of the Bond films like having people they can tell what to do. There are some editing choices I like in the film.
Well, you can tell he's an editor.
Yes. The ship sinking. There's a bit when a guy's going to look like he's going to cut Melina. It has a feeling of a sort of 80s canon films action film.
Yeah.
Where it's all a bit tacky, doesn't quite work, and adding to this tacky feeling is we haven't got John Barry, we've got Bill Conti doing the score.
This is the worst score to date. It's the worst score of them to this point in the series. This is an absolute nightmare. The music in this is the noise that your brain makes when it's 3 a.m. and you're lying in bed awake and you cannot sleep. and it's just going. And you're just lying looking at the ceiling, and the score for Your Eyes Only is racing through your brain. I've got to get up in 3.5 hours and go to work. Like something out of Sonic the Hedgehog, this score. Put more instruments. Just put more. Anything else? What have you got? More percussion, more cymbals, a penny whistle. I don't know. We'll have the noise of a car engine in there as well. Who knows? Drop a piano off at the top of a building. We'll just get that in as well.
Well, when you say the piano, there is a bit when it just goes. And along with his terrible score, he also wrote the music and someone else did the lyrics for the theme tune for Your Eyes Only, which is not one of my favourites.
We're not into the realm of the 80s
pop bands,
synthy pop bands yet. It feels a little bit safe.
Who sings it? Sheena
Easton.
She's also the first person who the opening credits is just her singing the song.
Yeah,
and they haven't done that since, and thank God.
It's a boring title sequence.
Yes. I guess the only other real thing she did was she sang at the Oscars. Their James Bond musical tribute number at the 1982 Oscars is woeful.
Honestly, you think this is a second-rate piece of Bond nonsense? Wait till you see this.
The fact that Jack Nicholson is having to sit through this is embarrassing.
They've dragged Richard Keel out, who's looking older already.
And Harold Sakata also appeared, his last ever appearance, because he died later that year. So that's one nice thing, is to see him back again. And then they just have two actors playing Dr. No and Blofeld. It's so embarrassing. And it seems very high on the sci-fi element. It's lasers and it's all these dancers in sort of spacesuits. If it's canon, I feel sorry, because the way that he takes out Jaws is horrible. The opening.
Goodbye, Mr. Bond. I trust you had a pleasant fright.
I don't think really works, the whole opening.
No. You can tell it's been added into the script at a later date, because you can, as we were watching it and you pointed out, the following scene after the opening titles is clearly the opening. You've got a Quantum of Solace thing going on here, where we've got two openings.
And the original opening is so much better, where she looks up after the death of her parents, it zooms in on her eyes, cut to For Your Eyes Only.
Yes.
Rather than Mr. Bond!
Mr. Bond!
Well, it was apparently added to the script at a later date, when they weren't sure if they were going to get Roger Moore. So the idea was that this would be the first time you see a new actor as Bond, and they would show that there was a continuity, because this is the new Bond putting flowers on the grave of his
Tracy's
dead
wife.
Tracy's wife?
I'm sorry.
The thing that I think makes this really rotten, and it's not officially Blofeld, because there was a rights issue with the name and Spectre, but it's Blofeld. It's obviously Blofeld, even though you never see his face. It's the bald man
with the cat.
With the cat.
And he's got the neck brace from when he hurt himself on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Yeah. And you kill off that character in the most ridiculous manner. It's, on the one hand, you get some actually quite really good helicopter stunt work.
Yes.
But it's all completely ruined by this absolute nonsense comedy.
I'll buy you a delicatessen in stainless steel!
And it's a shame because I think the opening of the grave, and you go, oh, that's lovely. And then you just go, and here's a joke to round it off. And I do think it's a bit weird that the writing on a grave is "we have all the time in the world." The thing he said after she was dead. Why would you put that on? But what the last thing she said? What was the last thing she said? She's
I
picking
do.
Flat. No.
The perfect indication of how much this has moved away from its early 60s, mid-60s root.
Oh, yes.
You know, you think back to the Connery, particularly the first few Connerys, and there's a real sense of class and decorum. It's extravagant, but it's tasteful. You know, you remember thinking back, we were watching Goldfinger, we said, God, look at his suits, you know, this is such a stylish, it's lovely, there's an elegance to it.
They're on the Orient Express.
This pool party looks like something out of Grand Theft Auto.
Yes.
It's so tacky. You've got just dozens of scantily clad people dancing around like bloody morons. It's so tacky and it looks so stupid.
The least classy person there is Roger Moore running around in a sweater.
It's got like a cardigan.
Gone is the class. We're firmly in the 80s now.
It's all been drained away. It's all gone. This is the decades have rolled by, and the elegance and the sophistication of the early Connerys has been replaced with just this awful cheap tackiness.
And then there's the car chase, which is flipping it on its head. They literally flip it on its head.
Yeah, well, it's the joke. It's James Bond has his custom-made Lotus, and isn't it funny that he has to drive a Citroen 2CV?
Yes. They have Melina rescue him by shooting a man with a crossbow, and then they completely take away all of her capabilities by having her crash the car. And then
Give me the keys. It's not a bad chase though. It's all right.
It's evident that the producers just went, what can we do for action sequences? Winter sports.
Watch here as Gatsby and one of her team will
Those action sequences are all fine.
Actually, I think the bobsleigh action sequence is pretty good because you have a stuntman on the skis going down the bobsleigh run. I think that's quite
and a motorbike. I think one of the scenes that shows Roger Moore's age more than anything else is don't have a man in his early 60s have to run up some stairs. It takes so long. It's like the joke in The Holy Grail. And it's meant to be the big dramatic vengeance moment, and it's a man in a jumper running up some steps.
I should have warned you. It'd be full of dead men.
They haven't learned their lesson from Thunderball.
I just don't know if you can do an interesting and exciting underwater sequence.
James Cameron would hit you in the face if he heard it. The underwater sequences in For Your Eyes Only are bad for a few reasons. One, they're very slow, much like the sequences in Thunderball. And two, it keeps cutting to terrible shots because Carol Bucket...
It's bouquet, B-U-C-K-E-T, bouquet.
...couldn't go underwater. She had a problem with her ears or something. So they have this thing where they blow fans in their face and make them stand in front of
a fish tank.
A fish tank. and have some fake bubbles, and it's just this Roger Moore going purple in the face, you know. It's awful.
James!
They said submarine battle.
Yeah.
It's so clink, clink.
It's basically watching someone play one of those crane grab games at a fairground. That's the action sequence. It isn't particularly good. It makes me actually now pine for the relative excitement of Thunderball when you had two underwater armies with spear guns fighting each other. I didn't particularly like that, but this is... Oh, it's dreary. It's dreary stuff.
And the one probably good underwater sequence is the villain, you know, not just shooting them, but dragging them across the Bahamas.
Hold tight.
Going backwards and forwards and getting hit with coral.
Dragging them over the coral, and Bond's back and everything is torn. Actually, that's...
Very Fleming.
Yeah, very Fleming. Yeah, that's from one of the books, Live and Let Die.
And then we get the climax. The Guns of Navarone inspired assault on a fortress.
We sort of started this by slagging it off, and now that I'm talking about it, I feel like I'm enjoying it more.
The rock climbing sequence is a 5-star sequence.
Yeah, excellent.
It's got the great stunt of the man falling, but my favourite thing about that rock climbing sequence is we don't have Roger Moore on a green screen cutting to him and it takes you out of it. They've done great shots of where it looks like Roger Moore. It looks like a 79-year-old man is climbing a mountain.
It's really nicely done.
It's like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible 2. You feel like you're on that mountain. It's a very good sequence.
It is, yeah. It's brilliant.
And then once they get up to Pinewood at the top, the action sequences up there is a bit underwhelming.
It is, but they do make good use of a really fantastic location.
Yes. Which apparently the monks made it very difficult for them. The monks didn't want them filming there, tried to sabotage it.
By knocking out James Bond's knees.
I tell you a character we've completely forgotten to talk about because he is so boring, is the blonde henchman.
Oh, yes, I forgot him.
Every so often you get the Red Grant ripoff. Timothy Dalton had his blonde Aryan, and then so did Pierce Brosnan. This is the worst, I think, of all the blonde Aryan Red Grant ripoffs because they make him have the strength of Captain America. It's this bizarre thing where he can throw motorbikes at people.
Not very far, though.
At the end, when a very boring fight between two old men, and astonishing, one of those two old men is not Roger Moore. Thrilling.
You're going to pay for it! No, you're not this bastard.
So is that three old men chasing after a box is the ending of the movie.
Typewriter.
And it is quite a good ending where the Russian arrives and James Bond's got it and he goes, hand it over.
Yep.
And then the film ends with an awful Parrot joke.
There's my kittens. Yeah, there's my kittens.
Oh, well, really, Mr. Bond.
Again, this is the problem with the movie, when if the producers are saying that the intention here is to bring it back down to earth and make it serious again, and then you end with this pantomime nonsense of a bad impression of Margaret Thatcher, and then when Dennis turns up, Dennis breaks the fourth wall, and it's this sort of living dead zombie Dennis who's grinning and gurning at the camera, at the audience.
It ends with a parrot talking to Margaret Thatcher. Two old men fight over a typewriter and a parrot talks to Margaret Thatcher. The serious one. Roger Moore's serious one. Yeah. Although I would say that last little segment with Margaret Thatcher I still preferred to the entirety of the Iron Lady.
Yes.
I hate the Iron Lady.
Yeah.
Both.
And the film wasn't there.
007. 007.
For your eyes only,
Some genuinely good action sequences.
Yep.
And a few flourishes, which I think prevent it from being outright bad.
Yes.
But it's a frequently dull movie.